Hey, I'm Jesse. Let's have a devotion. We're in Matthew chapter 9, and we're going to begin in verse 16, but just for a running start, the disciples of John the Baptist have asked Jesus why the Pharisees fast and they, the disciples of John the Baptist, fast, but Jesus and his disciples have never been spotted fasting. Jesus' answer, to get a running start into verse 16, in verse 15 says, "Can the wedding guests be sad while the groom is with them? The time will come when the groom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one," here's verse 16, "patches an old garment with unshrunk cloth, because the patch pulls away from the garment and makes the tear worse. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise the skins burst, the wine spills out, and the skins are ruined. No, they put new wine into fresh wineskins, and both are preserved." So this is a teaching about the incompatibility of the Jewish teaching with Jesus' teaching. The old wineskins are like the old Jewish teachings. All right, not to say that the Old Testament has expired. See the numerous teachings I've given against Marcionism and antinomianism in this very series. Rather, I think it's about the incompatibility of the teachings of the Talmud, the hyper-legalism of the Pharisees. Because that's the question that Jesus is answering as asked by John the Baptist's disciples. They're like, "Why don't you guys ever fast?" This is after, and even though Matthew's gospel doesn't necessarily move chronologically, it rather just focuses on teachings at a time. This comes after Jesus is teaching about fasting. Now, it's not supposed to be a public thing, bro. It's not something you tweet about. You just do this, and your Father who sees what is done in secret rewards you. For all they knew, the disciples were breaking a fast right there. They didn't know this. It was not something that was done for show, but that was definitely the Pharisaical way of doing things. That was completely incompatible with Jesus' way of doing things. And you couldn't take Jesus' new wine and put it into the old wineskins of the rabbinic traditions. They wouldn't work. All right, you can't patch an old garment with unshrunk cloth because the patch pulls away from the garment and makes the tear worse. All right, you can't. These two are incompatible with one another. It's time for a new covenant, built upon the old covenant. But wow, Jesus, meanwhile, is completely incompatible with the Pharisees' expectations of him. I don't think that John the Baptist's disciples were asking this question out of a sense of condescension either. I believe that the disciples of John the Baptist were aptly taught by John the Baptist that Jesus is the Messiah. And so the questions that they ask genuinely. For example, when Jesus would answer questions from the Pharisees, he knew that they were traps, and he would refuse to play along. But this answer is actually thoughtful, thoughtful in that it's meant to educate them. It even comes with two parables for them to really understand it. A third, if you count the groom and the groomsmen. He's giving them this illustration about where we currently are in redemptive history and where we're going. Okay, we're going somewhere brand new that this current mode of doing things is not compatible with. This current tradition of Pharisaical legalism, it's not gonna work, it's not gonna hold up. The way that they fast, making a big show out of it, guess what, man? It's not the way it's gonna work anymore. That doesn't fit with all of this. All right, it's not time for that just yet. Right now, I'm with my disciples. We're not fasting right now. I'm the groom, they're my groomsmen. All right, this is like a Christian bachelor party. And by Christian bachelor party, when I say that, what I refer to is a bonfire with your buddies throwing axes and things like that. Those are the bachelor parties that I've been to. Nothing ever crazy happens at those. But this is the picture that Jesus gives. I'm the groom. They're my groomsmen. We're feasting right now. The time's going to come for them to fast. You don't get this yet. The Pharisaical way of fasting, it's not going to last anymore. You can't just take this teaching and patch it onto that. You can't take this new fresh wine and put it into the old wineskins. They're utterly incompatible. Everything's about to change. Remember again, this is not Marcionism. This is not antinomianism. This is the fulfillment of the Old Testament law. Jesus did not come to abolish the law. Not one stroke of the pen from the law would disappear. He has come to fulfill the law. So this is why when I interpret the old wineskins or the old garments, I think it refers to rabbinic traditions and Pharisaical legalism. That stuff has no way of holding on to what's about to come. The disciples were about to get it in a way that John the Baptist's disciples couldn't yet anticipate. What Jesus would do on the cross and his resurrection would change everything forever. No more dietary law, no more ceremonial law. All that would remain is this moral law of God. And even then, we only use it as a standard by which to know when we're sinning or not. Rather, there's only one command. They go from a massive and growing litany of commands and teachings to just one. Radically changed. Everything's about to be different. Hold on to your hats, John the Baptist disciples, because wow, it's about to go down.